What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm glad to be back. It's been a couple weeks since I last did a video like this, so I'm glad to be back here. And yeah, you read the topic, or you read the title, and I'm gonna jump straight to it. It's been about almost a week since we had the Beterbiev versus Bivol rematch, and it was a great fight. Let me just put that out there. It was a great fight, and not just the main event. We had great undercard fights, so it was definitely a great card. It was definitely a great card, and I'm glad that I was able to see this one. Yeah, great fight by both fighters. Both fighters left everything on the line. They left it all in the ring. Great performances by both. It was another close fight, another fight that could have gone either way, just like the first one, just like the first time around. Um, I do think what played a big role was the youth. The fact that Beterbiev is now 40 years old, Bivol is in his prime. I also think Beterbiev is in his prime, but youth always counts. There's a time where your body's not gonna be able to pull the trigger anymore, where your body's just gonna say, hey, you know what? That's it. Your body's gone through so many grueling fights, training camps. You beat up your body in sparring, diets, weight cuts, and there comes a time where just the youth on your opponent just plays a bigger role, and your body can't pull the trigger anymore. So I think that definitely played a big role in Bivol. I did pick him to win this time around, and just like the first time around, I also picked him to win. It was another fight that could have gone either way. It's one of those 50-50 fights, where you never know what's gonna happen. You can always see one guy winning or the other guy winning. I'm sure if Beterbiev would have gotten a knockout, we wouldn't be surprised. If Bivol boxed his way into a decision, we wouldn't be surprised either. So yeah, it was a great fight by both fighters actually. And just before that, we got to see a couple of weeks ago another big fight in the light heavyweight division between Benavidez and Morel. So I'm glad that we're finally getting these big fights again, and this is what we need. This is what we need if we want to see the big fights in boxing. Keep in mind that if you want to see the big fights in boxing, we're not gonna have undefeated fighters all the time. I get it that it's special to hold the undefeated record, but at what cost? At what cost are you holding an undefeated record if you're not fighting the big fights? If you're not fighting the big names? If you're not fighting the best fighters in your weight class, in their prime, in their peak, and these are the fights that we need to see. The WBC actually just announced a couple of days ago that they're ordering Bivol to defend against Benavidez. Benavidez has done almost everything to try to secure the biggest fight in the weight class. He did it at 168, securing the WBC interim title, trying to get the Canelo fight. For one reason or another, it didn't happen. And now he's doing it at 175 also. He won the interim WBC title by fighting Bozdik, and then he went for the WBA regular title against Morel. And now he's the mandatory for two full world titles of the four sanctioning bodies. So I'm glad that the WBC now has made it mandatory for Bivol to defend. I know it's not part of this video, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. I wish they would have done that with Canelo. I wish they would have enforced it just how they're doing it to Bivol, in order for Canelo to defend against his mandatory. For some reason it didn't happen, but we're gonna leave it out of this video. Let's focus on the title of this video today. And yeah, we're definitely getting the big fights. Bivol versus Benavidez is definitely a clash of styles, and I'm interested in seeing the fight. I'm gonna start by analyzing both fighters to see what do I think of this matchup. If we look at Benavidez's record, he's gained experience ever since 2 years ago. He's fought the biggest names in the weight class, starting with Caleb Plant. After that he went on to fight Demetrius Andrade. He moved up to 175 to fight Bozdik, and now he just recently fought David Morel. So he's definitely gone after the big fights. He's tried to make the biggest fights possible, and he's done that. If we look, however, at the Caleb Plant fight, you can see that Benavidez did struggle with fighters that have movement. Although he was able to close the gap on them, and he was able to secure a win, you saw that the first 6 rounds that it was definitely tough for him to close the gap. It was tough for him to be able to catch on and time Caleb Plant's movement. Now, let's take into consideration that Bivol is a bigger fighter than Caleb Plant. I do think Bivol carries a bigger punch than Caleb Plant, and he's a natural 175 pounder. He's the best fighter in the weight class right now. Something that Caleb Plant wasn't. He was a good fighter, but not the best in the weight class. So we gotta take that into consideration. We also gotta take that Bivol was able to box around Beterbiev. He was able to take his power. But let's keep in mind that Beterbiev was already 40 years old, and also I don't want to say past his prime, but once you start getting into those late 30s and especially your 40s, your body doesn't react the same. Benavidez is in his prime. I do think that Benavidez, his legs are gonna be under him more than what Beterbiev's legs were under him, for the fact that he's got youth on his side now against Bivol. Bivol had youth on his side against Beterbiev. Now he's gonna be the older man. I don't think he's beat up. Like I said, I think that he's in his prime right now. He's undisputed for a reason, and it's definitely a clash of styles. Will Benavidez be able to keep up with Bivol's movement? I don't know. Like I said, he did struggle against Caleb Plant, but let's also keep in mind that if Beterbiev was able to close the gap on Bivol at times, I think Benavidez will also be able to, for the fact that youth is on his side. Now, let's also take a look that even though Beterbiev is older than Benavidez, I do think that he carries a bigger punch than Benavidez. And Bivol was able to take that power. So is the power going to be enough for Bivol to stand and fight with Benavidez? If I was to select who would win the fight, I do think Bivol has the slight edge, considering that I am a big Benavidez fan. I can accept when a fighter is superior to one of my favorite fighters or a fighter that I like watching. I enjoy watching Benavidez fight, but I also think that Bivol is just a tremendous fighter. He's a great fighter. Easily, you could even rank up top 5 pound for pound as of right now. I wouldn't be surprised if Bivol also boxes around Benavidez. He's done it to Beterbiev. He's done it to Canelo. He's done it to Zurdo Ramirez. He's fought the top guys in his weight class as well. So it's definitely a clash of styles. Definitely the kind of fights that we need to see in boxing for it to come back to its glory days. And little by little, we're getting there. I talked about it I think it was in the last video or so, where we need to see a little tournament between the top 4 guys in the weight class. And now they just added another guy. He's back on top now. He's back in the mix. Callum Smith, he just had a big fight in the undercard actually against Boatsi. He had a big win, securing the WBO interim title. So even if let's say Morel wants to go fight Callum Smith, he can. Morel's definitely a live dog also, just like Callum Smith. If we see the trilogy before we get the Benavidez fight between Beterbiev and Bivol, we can always see Benavidez go out and fight Callum Smith. They can unify the interim titles, if you want to call it like that. And little by little, they're gonna, if Benavidez beats Callum Smith, he's gonna be the mandatory for 3 sanctioning bodies. So he's trying to make the biggest fights possible. I'm glad that the promoters are working together a little better now to bring back these fights. These are the fights that we need to see. If you want to see the big fights, keep in mind the fighters are not going to be undefeated. Like I said earlier, I get it that it's important to hold the undefeated record, but at what cost? At what cost are you going to be undefeated if you're not fighting the top dogs out there? Yeah, that's it for this video. I was also gonna throw out there, I don't see Beterbiev fighting again. Especially if he wants to hang up the gloves now. I don't see the trilogy being made, for the fact that if the WBC enforces Bivol to defend against Benavidez, and the trilogy does go down after, it'll maybe be until next year, and by then Beterbiev is already gonna be 41 years old. So if he does keep fighting, I would recommend maybe try going against Morel, try beating a guy like Morel, and then maybe secure a fight against the winner of Bivol and Benavidez if he wants to continue to fight. That's a little tournament that we could see. Let's say Benavidez beats Bivol and Beterbiev beats Morel. We could see Benavidez versus Beterbiev, and then we could see Morel versus Bivol. Those are the great fights. These are the fights that we need to see, and I'm glad that they're happening again. I'm glad that little by little we're getting the big fights made. So yeah. That's it for this video. I wanted to leave that out there that, I'm glad the light heavyweight division is back stacked again. I think the last time it was making somewhat noise was when Kovalev was in his prime. We had Andre Ward, and I think we also had Adonis Stevenson, the WBC champion at one time. So that's the last time the light heavyweight division made some noise. Now it's making more of a buzz now. So I'm glad that we're getting these fights made. Little by little we're getting back there. So let's keep our fingers crossed, and let's hope that promoters keep working together to bring these fights. Turkey's definitely been a big help. He's done almost any and everything in his power to bring back these big fights. I hope that he continues to do so, because this is only going to bring boxing back to its glory days. These are the fights that we need, and I'm glad they're happening. That's it for this video. I wanted to leave that out there. And yeah, I got more coming your way, so stay tuned because I'm definitely gonna be showing you guys more content. I've been working with a professional fighter, so you guys are gonna see his professional fight coming up soon. So stay tuned for that because it's coming your way. All right, peace out.